And welcome to the set here at the Canadian Science Policy Conference. Joining us right now, we've got Hank Venema. Thank you very much for being here, Hank.
Pleasure.
You're the Vice President of Science and Innovation. You're based in Winnipeg.
Correct.
And here today, you're going to be talking about biofuels.
Yes, I am. I'm talking about biofuels in a different context than usual. Biofuels, there are concerns in the policy community about biofuels and their impact on food and the displacement of food crops by biofuels. We see biofuels differently. We see biofuels as a component of ecosystem management, and we're using biofuels as a method for dealing with nutrient loadings on Lake Winnipeg. So we're actually using biofuels strategically to help clean up Lake Winnipeg. So it's and in so doing, we actually recycle the nutrients back to agriculture that are responsible for polluting and eutrophying Lake Winnipeg. So it's bringing biofuels from just another crop that's competing for space on the agricultural landscape to a strategic component of ecosystem management.
Okay, explain to us what a biofuel is.
Well, biofuel is basically an energy product derived from living plant materials. So whether it's a log in your fireplace is a biofuel, of course, right? Biofuels can be more exotic than that. I mean, people are working on creating hydrogen from biomass. Ethanol is the most common form of biofuels, which is a distilled product from usually corn. But that's called first generation biofuels. But we're well into second generation biofuels, where we're using more sophisticated engineering to get higher energy values out of the underlying biomass.
Go ahead.
Well, just that there's always concern that the biofuels, the production of biofuels, can actually consume more energy and nutrients than you derive when you actually use them. But for some biofuels, such as the ones we're using to help clean up Lake Winnipeg, that's clearly not the case. These are actually, these are essentially weeds that are so successful at sequestering nutrients, at capturing nutrients, that when we use them as biofuels, we can take those reconcentrated agricultural nutrients, which are extremely valuable, and bring them back to the farm. And just perhaps to put an exclamation point on this concept and why we think it matters so much. Agricultural nutrients are the most valuable commodity for food security. It's not energy. Energy we can substitute. If we have less of one form of energy, we can substitute for the other. Biofuels is just one of those possible substitutions. But nutrients, particularly potash and phosphorus, potassium and phosphates, are absolutely critical to food security. We couldn't feed the world without these minerals.
Okay.
And to further, to sort of make the point about how essential agricultural nutrients are, the largest corporate takeover attempt in Canadian history was not for an energy company, it was for a fertilizer company. It was the Potash Corporation of Saskatchewan. So you can see that when the large players swoop down and look strategically at what the real assets Canada has, fertilizers come to the very top of the list. And so we have a system of intercepting those fertilizers, those agricultural nutrients, before they create environmental damage downstream, use biofuels as the carrier to intercept those nutrients, get the energy out of the biofuels, and get the nutrients back. So it's a different way of conceptualizing what biofuels can do out there on the landscape and how they don't compete for food. They don't compete with food production. They actually enhance food production by their strategic deployment and produce these other environmental benefits.
But when you do hear biofuels, like you said, you're thinking ethanol and corn, and that seems to be the area that many people are focusing on.
Yeah, but it's for a number of reasons we're moving past that. The practice, not only the research, the practices on second generation biofuels, taking the whole plant rather than just the ear of corn, take the whole stalk of corn and process that into biofuels. Similarly, the research and practice is moving away from agricultural crops to crops that don't compete for food, like the plants that we're talking about.
Right from the lake.
Yeah, well, and the surrounding areas, right? We're intercepting the nutrients on the land before they get into the lake, actually.
So when you come to an event like this, what is it that you're hoping to get across? Because you are one of the speakers.
We are basically demonstrating how you can take a serious environmental management problem and turn it into an innovation opportunity by viewing the problem differently, by just sort of turning the lens on the problem and saying what we think is a pollutant, what we think is a waste product isn't really. It's a resource stream. We just have to be creative in how we capture that resource stream. We happen to be using biofuels to capture that resource stream. Historically, it's been considered a waste product, a pollutant. By using biofuels, we're turning it into a resource. We're turning, in particular, phosphorus into a resource.
It's interesting because you're sitting in front of a sign that says innovation.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you're doing with this.
Well, there is no waste. Waste is a bad word. They're all just resources for the next process. And we just have a large scale, an ecosystem scale method of turning what was once a pollutant and a waste product into a resource again.
Where is Canada when it comes to this type of research?
Well, in fact, we are, on this concept, we are the leaders. There is no one doing biomass for large-scale ecosystem management like we are. So this is a leadership opportunity that we've created.
And this is one of the things that they talk about Canada, saying that we're very good on the research side, but
Yeah.
then when it comes to the patents and getting things out,
Yeah.
that's where we tend to slip.
Well,
so what
and
happens with what you
Good
come up with?
question. Good question. We are we're working on commercialization right now, but there are obstacles. There are certainly some challenges there, but it's attracted a lot of attention. Our concept, which is, by the way, the Lake Winnipeg Bioeconomy Project, it's attracted a lot of attention. We won an award at a conference in Rio de Janeiro, United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development. We were named one of the world's 100 best sustainable development projects because we were taking biofuels and creating higher levels of food security by recycling agricultural nutrients. So there is interest in the project. Can we commercialize? That's an open question.
Is this a government-sponsored research project?
The
or industry
research
involved
we
as well?
have, we have private sector investors now too, but it started out as a government-funded project.
Okay, because one of the things that we've heard is that often heads of companies are in other countries, and that's one of the reasons why we don't end up getting the patents here, because they didn't take the idea, go to their home country, and that's where they work on it. Is that a danger with what you've got going on?
There is some risk of that. I would say there are other more immediate issues that we have to deal with, but that's out there in the weeds as an issue. We have talked to some players where that could be a risk, yeah.
So when you're doing something in Canada and you come up with something that could revolutionize the way, something is done, like you are, is there a sense of regret maybe that the patent and the actual commercialization of it may not be done in Canada? Or for you, is it doing something like this and completing the research and coming up with the end result?
I think in our case, the goal is to create the fundamental goal is to actually get a solution, a working solution for Lake Winnipeg. We just happen to have found a way to do it profitably. We would like to see those benefits remain in Canada, certainly, but we will partner with those we need to execute. So IP is a concern, but we can't let that get in the way of what the fundamental objective is, which is a profitable way to restore this wonderful lake.
Okay. When you come to an event like this, the conference, what sort of benefits do you see with being here?
You hear it's usually that crystallizing moment when someone on the podium says something that's just so succinct and it just galvanizes a nagging issue that has been in the back of your mind for a while, and they just nail it, and you go, yeah, I can use that. I can use that concept the next time I have to communicate. So usually it's those aha moments on communications. But it's also obviously the networking. I met some people that I think can really help us move this Lake Winnipeg bioeconomy project forward in Manitoba. Folks I'm on the same panel with actually that are interested in going horizontal with their networks and reaching out to other parts of the country. So that's exciting.
Excellent. Hank, thanks very much for your
My
time.
pleasure.
We've been chatting with Hank Venema.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you. Stay there.
Was that good?